All right. Welcome back, guys. How is everybody doing? TA Tech here. Welcome back to another live stream slash podcast. We are joined by Michael Pepper and a very special guest, I Cave Dave. How are you guys doing?
Good.
It's great to have you guys on. I'm going to put my AirPods on for this.
I
On
guess I'm not very special. He's like, we're joined by Michael Pepper and a very special guest.
It's my first time. You have to be
Mike-
gentle with me.
Or it's just known. It's just a known fact. I already appreciated that I'm very special, so he doesn't need to announce it.
Yeah,
think that.
exactly. How are you, Michael? I did not. Okay, I did not.
I'm good.
How
You
are you-
just
What's going
your
on?
audio skipping like every other word on me. I don't know if it's doing that to Dave or not.
Is it doing it now? Still?
Not currently.
Nope. But when you lean just
No?
right, it's like your Bluetooth gets cut off from the.
Oh, yeah. No, I just switched it to the microphone, so that's probably
Okay.
what happened. But what's going on, everybody? I see Ivan in the chat. Ross, what's up?
Ivan.
What's up?
And Ross.
Solange, how you doing? How you doing? The one and only wife of mine, how you doing? Uh Sharkfin, what's up, man? How you guys doing? Kyle Lopes in the chat. I see you, man. Guys, thank you guys for joining us tonight. So I thought about this and I said, you know what? Why not have two guests this time around? And make this into a live podcast episode. So that's what is going to be happening. We're going to be paying attention to the chat as much as we can, but we're going to be talking and stuff. I will then delete this podcast, this stream, and then upload it again as a podcast with some parts cut out. So be aware of that, just in case any shenanigans happen, because, well, we got the man of shenanigans right here, don't we?
Point the other way.
I don't know about
You were
Dave,
pointing.
but-
It was like he's pointing at empty space.
Oh, really? I don't know where to point. Over here, I'm pointing just fine. I don't know what's going on with that. Ooh, we just got another guest behind stage, and straight from the California Apple Park, we got Mark
Tinker.
Sequence.
Yo! What up?
Envision
Yo.
Pro.
Woo!
Envision Pro.
I just
Straight
redid
from Vision
Personas.
Pro.
Sorry.
Ooh,
Yeah, this is.
damn.
I forgot that they sent out, I think, beta 4 or public, the developer beta 5. I think we're on 5, but I didn't update Personas till right now. If you notice a difference or not, I'm not sure. Maybe. Looks more detailed,
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
crisper.
it does a little bit more detailed, man.
Yeah.
Your
They look
hands
cool.
come into play without like weird having to like bring them in from
Yeah,
above. So that
You saw
they-
that? Okay. Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah,
Whoa.
What happens if
Although
you
they-
cough though? See, it doesn't do it anymore.
You got to get out of the way. It's in spatial. It's spatial COVID now. It's a new variant. It's not out yet. We're working on that one. Thanks for having me, dog.
No, man. Thank you for coming. So yeah, I was just saying we're gonna have a couple guests. It's gonna be a great live stream, but once it's deleted, edited, cut down, and uploaded again, it's gonna be an even better podcast. So
Oh, yeah.
I think this is gonna be fun.
Keep it tight.
So yeah, I wanted to talk about today some of the stuff that we've heard, patents and stuff that we've heard that we're gonna be worked on or we're getting worked on, but never came out, never came to us public. So I mean, I don't know where to start. I sent a thing. Let me see if I can send it here. in the chat. I sent a thing to Benji earlier because he was going to join us today, but then something came up. So let me see if I can grab that. One thing that we all know happened was the charger that they were going to do, AirPower, and that quickly got scrapped.
Tesla came out with theirs. Did you see that one?
Yeah, I did.
That looks badass, but it's pricey even for me. It was like 400.
Are they still your work daddy, or have you moved on now?
I wanted to return to them now that it's springtime. So, but I don't think my old recruiter works there. But yeah, I would go back for sure, and I would recommend it for anybody who, if you have an audience in Fremont or close by, or if there's a Tesla place near you. If you guys remember from my construction background, you can retire there. It's way easier on your knees, easier on your back. Stock options for the first time. Like you can build a savings account, investments account. It was pretty incredible, considering.
Seems like it's just too much of a commute for me, I think.
Yeah.
Well, what would it be? Giga London? What's the closest?
I think Berlin, maybe.
Giga Berlin's the closest, so we need to put one across the pond. What would we call it? Where would it be?
Giga Brum. That's like just down the road from me. That's where we used to build cars.
So there's already room. There's already space.
Yeah,
it's zoned.
We had MGs. We had Rovers, like Land Rovers, just down the road. Jaguar. It's all around here.
Oh wow.
Someone tweet Elon. Tell Jaguar. Yeah, tell him. Let him know. I mean, I think Mexico's taking a while. Mexico's taking too long.
It's all that warming away now.
Yeah.
I don't know if we really want Elon here in the.
What? Hey, come on. Well, hey, they changed many people's lives. There's more than just him that worked there. Thousands and thousands of people. Okay, all right.
True that.
All right.
Just make it a Tesla wall. That would be genius. It blocks,
know.
but it also provides energy to the whole. Like, you can provide energy to
if
the
you're
whole
gonna build a
US.
wall,
Think about the mileage for it.
If you're gonna build a wall, you might as well, battery storage.
Yeah. So, what are you guys' thoughts on this whole thing? What was one product that you heard was coming out but didn't, that you guys, were waiting for, and now,
Well, you said AirPower. When I totally missed that, like the leaks and rumors. I think I was getting into the scene a little after that. When did those first hit the scene? Obviously, never came out, but
AirPower was supposed to be. It was announced alongside the iPhone 10.
Okay,
yes.
So that was
10.
the first one with wireless charging.
I just saw the 10 and I was like, boom.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, new design, and I didn't care about anything else that they said. But
yeah.
Oh right, that was the first.
Yeah, it was introduced there because that was the first one that had the glass back, so you could do the wireless charging, alongside the 8, which also got that.
Qi charging.
And that's when they also, I think, introduced AirPods at the same event, maybe because.
But they didn't. Did they support? They didn't support Qi charging yet. The AirPods, right? What was the first? That was like AirPods 2.
No. Yeah.
Okay, they came late too, even later than that.
Yeah.
That reminds me of another thing that was announced, but then never came out. Then there was supposed to be a bigger iPhone 10. When they did the announcement, there was supposed to be like a 10 Plus coming later, and then they never did a bigger version.
I don't think they announced it at the time.
It was 10s,
but they
the
did,
10s Max. I think
they
was a whole year.
mentioned though that there was going to be a larger, and then they never did it. You had the 8, the 8 Plus, the 10, and then there was never a bigger.
The 10s had the tennis match as well, didn't it?
Yeah, but that one did that one come out later?
Yeah, that was on the next gen.
Because I mean they did a waterfall release when they did, like, for example, the 12 and 12 Pro came out, and then the Mini and the Pro Max came out a month after. Was that that wasn't the first time that they did a waterfall delay for the same, that year's phone, but a different size. I think they may have done.
The 10s did come out in
Max?
November. No, just the regular 10 didn't arrive until
they were
November,
delayed by
even
that was
though
a
it was
whole
announced with
brand new
the
tooling,
8.
brand new factory, new partners, They were like, it's coming. We promise. It's worth it.
Yeah.
But no, AirPower would have been dope. AirPower would have been, because that design inspired a bunch of other knockoffs. Remember, they figured it out, or they didn't care about overheating or cool. Yeah, they don't need to provide the Apple difference, right? The Apple Touch safety, all that good stuff. But even still,
So-
for example, for the Tesla one that came out, that one took a long while, and I didn't see that one coming.
Xiaomi had one that they did where it moved inside of it. So you'd set down your phone and there was a sensor and it would detect and then it would move
What?
to where it was. So you didn't
Just
have to
moves the
have like
coil to
40
fit.
coils.
Oh, damn.
You could just have, and I think there were 2 or 3 coils in it though. So you could have multiple devices,
Wow.
but like you just set it and it kind of moved, so it didn't matter. So like if you were inebriated or something, you set your
I
phone
think-
down, it would just go.
I think somebody just forgot to screw those down on the inside. They're like, hey, screw it works.
Yeah, so here's some of the lists that I found. Some
Oh,
of
the
these things that
Newton.
I
Was that the
I
Palm
was-
Palm Pilot one, handheld? One?
I've got a Newton here. I've got.
Was
an
that the
eMate
blue? Was that the
500
BlackBerry?
Right here.
BlackBerry knockoff?
No, I've got it right here. Hang on.
No,
Okay,
that was that
everyone
was
hang on.
the predecessor to the iPad. It's where the Hello came
Oh,
from.
okay. Oh, I was way off. They didn't do a BlackBerry like Palm Pilot type. Did that? What was that one called? Apple never
They
had a
did-
stylus, right? Ever?
No,
That's cool.
Yes, they did.
no, not back
That's
then.
so. Yeah. Look at that guy.
And this one, all of the stuff that came with the
Whoops.
iPad scribble stuff, you know, when they
Yeah.
started doing
Is
the handwriting
Oh,
recognition,
Look how cool he
it
is.
works the same. It works in
Wow.
exactly the same way. You scribble out anything that's wrong and it deletes it. It's really clever.
Now you're making stuff
Wow.
up.
No,
Which is actually built in. It's
Look,
built
it's
in,
right
It's
there.
been built
I-
into Mac OS since like
Damn.
the origination of Mac OS. It was hidden in there too. Like if
Woo!
you did a thing with the on-screen keyboard, you could use your cursor to write, and it would do the same type of thing. It's
Mhm.
just
Like
so,
an etch and sketch, but
If
smart.
you use like a touchscreen monitor, like I have with your Mac, you can do the same kind of thing with that. So
I like your speakers too. That clear tube.
Yeah, these were-
yeah.
Ooh.
Johnny, I've designed these. with
That's
Harman
a-
Kardon.
That's
That's
an
cool.
official line array layout. Like concert speakers do that so they can propagate.
Mhm.
Right.
This guy's kicking ass. We should be more like him.
Yeah, definitely.
He's an inspiration.
oh, the Pippin, the game console.
Oh yeah.
What
And
was
then
their?
the round mouse? I love that they had the ones that matched the colors of all the.
Oh, not so
iPad.
fast, not so
Yeah.
fast. Who was the Pippin targeted against? What was the gaming scene at the time? Was that Atari?
Ooh, look at that! Wow.
So
Looks like a
oh,
Dreamcast.
So 1997, yeah, it would be sort of Dreamcast kind of time. I
Wait,
guess.
Nintendo 64 too. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was exactly at the time. 64-bit gaming. They revolutionized the industry.
Wow.
No one had ever seen. Basically, it's still 2D, but like 2D with depth. Basically, like fake faux 3D. And that's been one of
great.
Nintendo's strongest selling points ever since. They owned that aesthetic.
I remember seeing not
The-
this mouse, obviously, but
I have that one.
just this generation of the colored Macs. I had to be in elementary school back then, and dude, I love those things. The only thing I didn't like about those things that they were mad chunky, and I mean for the time,
That's the color. Is that
most
the,
computers were.
is that the purple or is that the blue?
That's the
That's the
blue.
blue.
This is the
Okay.
blueberry.
For me, I couldn't tell with I
Mm.
was like, I'm pretty sure that's the blueberry. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the color we had, and my grandparents had the orange or tangerine.
We're gonna empty my walls by the end of this live stream.
Jeez.
This is an iCave Dave stream now. It's a the iMuseum.
Oh
see.
man.
How do I switch
Yeah, that
cameras?
was
I want to
such a
show you
great-
guys what I see.
When you mentioned Atari, you know that Apple's named Apple because of Atari because they wanted to be in the phone book before Atari.
Yeah, I
So
remember
that's
that
why
one.
it became Apple.
Yeah,
I mean,
And
they could have
Steve-
gone with like Aardvark or something weird like that to really guarantee it.
Yeah, but Steve had just come
What's
back
this?
from like an apple orchard retreat where he was on like an apple diet for a few weeks as well.
Wait, this
he kept
so-
all the doctors
Oh,
away,
one of
so it
those.
must have worked.
the
Oh, yeah.
It was
cube
part of
shape-
his. It was part of his India exploration thing too.
Mm-hmm.
It's where all
I didn't know that there was
the fonts
was
come from.
I
Yeah,
didn't
what's
know
it-
that there was a computer like this.
There's an Apple
You didn't?
Silicon
I had
version of
one.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I heard
well,
some
knew
crazy
that.
guy threw an Apple Silicon chip in it, and he's
This-
nodding his head.
It wasn't me.
No, wait. Which one do you have? Which one? You did something crazy, right?
So I've got the. It's just over
You
here.
did something. He did a silicon swap. You know how like some cars,
didn't-
some dudes buy cars and they drop an engine in a whole nother car, and that's like their thing. This guy took that to another. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna take a whole nother computer and drop it in the engine swap computers.
Somebody recently did an
How many
M2 for
people-
the volleyball. What was the one? The
G4.
iMac that was
Yeah.
the G4. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Action Retro. This is his T-shirt that I'm wearing. One of his merch ones.
I
Yeah,
think I remember Nick and Sweeney, NASA spaceflight photographer,
Nick?
documenter, right? He's got one of.
He's
I
done
think
one as
of
well.
This is the. Is it this
yeah.
one? The cube,
I would
right?
love-
Yeah, he
M1
did a
cube.
cube. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Shout out to
I would
him.
love to know. I would love to know where Nick and Sweeney is. I miss him on the Tables of Tech podcast.
I miss him
I
too.
would
He's
guess he's
funny.
in.
And
Boca
He hasn't
Chica,
been-
probably.
Yeah, he hasn't been twittering. He was in
Yeah.
the market for an EV too. I know he was struggling a little bit out there with. First, it was his computer was having problems because of the environment over there, like sandstorms, and then
Yep.
temperature, and also I believe his truck or something that he had. So he fixed one problem with the silicon. He's like, dude, I love it. It's the best. And then he just needed to go from switching his computer to switching his car out. So maybe
Yeah.
I mean I don't know. Cybertruck's out.
It'd
Cybertruck.
be awesome is if they
I'm not
did a
gonna-
new version of the G4 Cube that you were just showing,
Oh yeah.
Yep.
but design
Ins-
it so that when you put your iPhone underneath it, lights kick on, and then there's like a wireless charger on your desk, and it starts charging, and then it like transfers over via AirDrop. So
Yeah.
you just set your
You
phone
can-
down, slide it underneath. And,
I mean, it's not much bigger than the Mac
be
Pro
sweet.
needs to be, which is basically the Mac Studio with the M2 Ultra
Yeah.
in it.
The footprint of it
I'm
is
on-
the same as
Yeah.
a Mac Mini.
Yeah, who does freaking PCI slots anyway? Gross.
I am honestly shocked at this list because, yeah, the majority I can see, but
there, yeah, we
Apple
had
Maps, Apple Maps, and iPhone 6 do not, and I mean do not, need or deserve to be on this list.
Is this fails? Is that what they're saying?
Yeah,
Fails or they never
Yeah.
came out.
I guess the original 6 had bend issues when it first came out. I guess that's probably the
Okay,
reason that it's on
yeah.
the list.
Where
Apple
the
Maps
success-
obviously had a horrendous launch. And it cost Scott Forstall his job, but on the plus side, we don't have skeuomorphism ravaging our operating systems now. But yeah, I was looking down the list. I'm like, yeah, I've got that one, got that one, got that one. Oh, God.
This guy, I know, right?
Interesting. There's things that aren't on there that come to mind though, like
I
the
can be.
email.
Dave, I don't know if you've done a video on this before, but I think you should review every old product and see whether or not they work well in 2024.
They
I
don't.
think-
To save you some time, they're
What-
pretty horrific at this point. However,
but they work.
I mean,
Well,
I bought
okay.
like
But can you fix them and make them work?
oh no,
They turn on.
like they physically work. They're
Oh,
not
okay.
workable. But
Oh,
like, I
gotcha.
picked up stuff like super cheap. I was talking. I had Sam Cole on the podcast earlier
Woo!
this week.
Dude,
So that's
what?
coming out on Friday. And we
Yeah,
were talking
yay.
about this. Like one of the
I'm trying.
one of the Power Mac G3s that I bought was from like a car boot sale over here, which I guess is like a flea market in the States kind of thing. Like
Mhm.
basically,
Swap
if you
meet.
bring everyone's garage sales together in a field, that's what it is. It was £10 for a Power Mac G3 tower.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
took it home and it switched on straight away. Was already running like Tiger, I think. And I was like, this is a 350 megahertz Power PC
Oh,
chip.
when she uses my name, that's
And-
that's
Like all of the animations are still smooth, fluid. Like you go down to the dock, it still does the magnification. All of that stuff just works. And I was like, why is this smoother than like a modern Windows computer? It cost me
If you-
£10.
If you
That's
weren't
a-
oceans
How dare you,
away,
sir.
I could have had you very, very happy when my dad got rid of a bunch of Apple stuff because he had like an iBook, he had a G3 and a G4
Mhm.
tower. We had
Yeah.
an Apple IIe. Actually, that was my first
Ooh.
computer that we
The
used.
oldest-
They were
the
all
oldest
they would
one I've
all
got was
still
that.
boot. They would all still boot up as
Mm.
well, and we had like
I-
some of the discs that you'd put in there, like the games. the crazy thing is thinking about like you'd put a disc in, right, and then you type in some code, and then you'd have to like eject the disc and put another disc to play the next part, like Oregon Trail type of thing. It's
Yeah, I think
like
I
that
played
stuff was
like
insane.
Monkey Island off of 3.5-inch floppies on PC back in the day.
I said hi to you girls
Yeah.
earlier. You guys didn't hear me.
My parents made me very upset though when they threw out Atari and 2-inch televisions because we had games that never. My uncle worked for NASA, and one of his coworkers worked for Atari, and there were games that never were fully released. So we had games that would be worth literally like probably tens of thousands of dollars a piece. Like games that were officially released, they were worth like 30,000. So I can't imagine games that were worth nothing. And they just put it out of the road. I'm like, I hope somebody came and took it, and it didn't just go into the compact, into the trash and just be gone. Because that'd be very
100%.
sad. Literally, probably millions of dollars worth of games because there were like hundreds of games.
Yeah. I mean, I've got to say, whenever anyone puts one of those lists up on Twitter where they're like, "Oh, list your current setup," I put the whole catalog in. So, like, I could, if I went up into the attic, the evolution of iMac pictures that you've seen where they have the side-on image of everything, I can do that, like with hardware, and
Show
take
off.
the pictures, which I might need to do. I think the only one I haven't got is actually the Apple Silicon generation. For the iMac, but yeah, other than that, like I've got a couple of G4 Sunflowers, I've got a G3, I've got a couple of eMacs, I've got a G5, I've got one of the only one I haven't actually got at the minute is the rounded edge aluminium ones, so like the really early aluminiums. I've only got the edge to edge chunky boy and the skinny ones. But yeah, like it'd look cool.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah,
we had an eMac too, which is very unusual because
Gotcha.
those were the eMacs because people they were only made for educational, and people are like, "Oh, it's just an iMac." Nope, it was very specific, and it was made, and I believe the processor was clocked slightly faster.
Internally, from memory, there's 2 different versions, or possibly 3 different processor types. They're all G4s, and it was basically the Sunflower iMac, but with a CRT so that they could make them cheaper, so that they could sell them to education for a reasonable price. But they're a really, really nice looking display because they're like a 17-inch, I think, CRT, so they're a bit bigger than the G3 iMacs. Like
Were
The
they
really
using that?
annoying part was trying to connect to Wi-Fi because you have to like leave like very first versions of Wi-Fi enabled, so you have to have a router that can do like wireless like A.
Yeah,
Like
they're 8
and it's not even that. It's actually
like
it's like pre-A wireless.
Yeah.
Like it's you can't have any of the security protocols, so you have to like disable or hardline it and then still do some things. So it's really tricky. So we had 2 networks running, and then you just hid the one.
Exactly.
The screen. The screen that they used in that one, was that the first time they used it in one of their products, or was that from another part of the Apple line?
It was
that was the first
specific
time.
to that, and it was like a Trinitron flat screen.
Oh
CRT
wow, I remember
thing.
that name. Holy
it was a
shit.
really high quality.
It was
display.
Beautiful. Like
yeah, no, they were a name.
Today's standards, like
that was household name. They were the ones doing that boob tube technology, right? Oh
if I could,
radiation.
I don't know if my dad still has it, but if he still does, and I can get the connectors, I would love to be able to use it just as a display and like adapt it over. Because I mean, think about it. You have there's no refresh rate on that stuff.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Literally instant.
You're gonna refresh your DNA with that thing, man. Don't turn it on. You're gonna make another Chernobyl. This guy.
I mean, technically, yeah.
He's like, I
voltage
know.
that comes out of
the
voltage that can come out of CRTs if you're not careful. But
that was
I would take it to some place where they know what they're doing and they have discharge equipment and
that was the don't sit so close to the TV reason, right? The main to get the hell away from that because your lungs and your DNA and stuff. I remember that one.
You could run your screen across the front of it.
Oh yeah,
across the front of the screen, and you would feel the static on your hands.
You could talk to other dimensions. That was cool.
So much fun.
Yeah, I think technology has progressed so much. It kind of stinks that there was a lot of great projects that I personally would have loved to see comes to life. But I don't know. I think that this will do something for the better. I think that they're just trying to work things out and make things as good as possible. I mean, think about it, especially with AirPower. If they had released that, I wouldn't want to see how many products would be getting returned like a week after. Because imagine
That's the cost of doing business. So
true, but
it's valuable information and feedback. Like the same way for like Vision Pro returns, I heard that there's like a questionnaire during the return. They're like, well, now they're really listening to us more than I think they ever have before. Remember we were talking about like this is a different Apple. What the hell? I know for real. Yeah, right. They're like, we have Apple Pencil 2s and 3s and what just.
If anything, it would be worse than you'd have recalls, worse than like the keyboard. The butterfly keyboard. It would be worse than that, and I think there would be lawsuits because you'd have issues with like people catching things on fire using it correctly.
Yeah,
like they're not even using it wrong, but it overheats and catches things on fire, and and Apple is huge, so it'd be even worse than like Xiaomi and some of their things that have happened,
or
like
a Note 7.
Even without like stuff bursting into flames. Did you guys hear the class action about the color truth in color saturation or lack thereof? How long we've been letting them get away with making the colors look even more saturated in all their marketing and advertising material than it is in person?
Well, Samsung does it on all their screens when you get the phone.
That doesn't make it right.
Well, the other thing is,
it's illegal to do so. That's the whole thing.
The funny thing to me when people go, "Oh, I got a MacBook. It's super color."
Not that I care about the law.
Did you use it?
Not that I don't care. No.
Or same thing with like whatever these displays. None of these displays you're getting are color accurate unless you use a colorimeter and actually calibrate things.
Sure, but see, you can write that off.
The minute you adjust the brightness,
right.
Go in and like the exact nits that it's calibrated at, and then run it at that all the time, you've thrown things off.
We still have control over that. We don't have control over the final finish and what it looks like after it leaves the factory, and who knows.
Yeah, you're talking about like the glass finish,
the physical finish of the phone that they showed us.
Actual like
the actual colors that they tell us. Here's what it's going to look like. Like that shouldn't there shouldn't be a discrepancy, especially if you're using. You guys know how to do like accurate white balance and everything else to make it as true as possible. But it's not something like for the screen.
Make it all up.
You can't. Well, you can't. I know. Yeah, but we can't calibrate it in person after the fact. It's just like, well, what? I mean, why? Just show me. Either show me what it really is, or add saturation, which is what most of the people just want. Just truth. Stop lying to us.
What do you mean when you get where the pixel the seafoam green and then the green and then you got it and it just looks white,
like just a green crayon sneezed on it a little bit. Yeah, I remember that.
They all look the same, or all the one iPhones that all look where there was like the pink, the yellow, and the blue and the green, but they all look basically like off-white.
And then my worst one is the MacBooks, where they had gold, like actual gold, and then they had actual rose gold, and then they kind of combined them, but took the yellow gold out, and then just named rose gold. That's the worst offender. But it doesn't exist anymore. They have Starlight. I guess
we have Space Gray, but there's 5 different years of Space Gray, but they all look different. So which one is actually Space Gray?
One of my favorite commercials was that one. They have Gray and Grayer. I love that one. That one's hilarious. It's like he's right. Like, what color? They have Gray and Grayer. You just
that's the Pro good. iPhones this year, though, right? Like the iPhone Pro 15s. You've got like gray, a bit darker gray, really
bluer
gray, or bluey gray,
bluish gray. Yep, this guy.
Yeah.
I was surprised when I got the blue though, because I really wanted the natural, but all they had was the titanium blue, and I looked at it and I went, this actually looks pretty good. Like being colorblind, usually, like it has to be very obvious that it's there, and with this, it's more obvious than I thought it was gonna be. It's
how close to the Pacific
not like
blue?
Not at all.
Nothing like Pacific Blue. In some photos, it looks like Pacific Blue to me, and even though I love it, I was moving from Pacific Blue 12 Pro, which is why I was like, okay, natural. But all the colors look good. I just was really hoping for a spring refresh, something a little happier.
Yeah.
It's like
I'd
if
Even
accept
if
mine's
Pacific
purple.
Blue and Space
Yeah.
Gray had a baby, but then it actually turned out that Space Blue
More on one side.
really wasn't the dad. It was
Yeah.
more like, so it's more.
Yeah. Just a different to see what other finishes the titanium can come in. That's what I
mean,
wanted to see.
Why am I doing that when I could just do this?
That's the thing. The titanium is really hard for them to color in
True.
any color because you're not anodizing it the same way that you would for aluminium.
four
That's
colors
the
look
Space
great.
Blue.
It still looks great. They
Or
look
that's
great,
the
but
titanium blue
Yeah.
or whatever.
yeah, but no
this
spring.
here.
That does look like Pacific Blue
No, Pacific Blue is
in that light.
yeah.
On
the
my screen right now, Michael.
reflectivity. If I bring
Michael.
it back here, that's more like the color because you have
Yeah.
less reflection.
The color
Yeah.
of it when it was behind your head.
But when you bring
Really
it close, you're
difficult to
getting a
see.
reflection of the light. So it's definitely if I do that, there you go.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the thing, though.
Yeah.
All of Apple's phones change color so much given different
Mm-hmm.
lighting conditions.
Yep.
That's
I
why
agree.
it's so difficult to know what you're going to
That
see.
that's also the state of using metal. It's very hard to photograph when you're doing metal. Like in my commercial photography classes, when you talk about like even matte finish metal, you have to shift the angle of the light that's coming in, even if you soften it a lot, because otherwise you're just getting an angle reflection of the light and not the actual object.
Mm.
And then if it's glass on the back of it that's highly reflective, it's even worse.
Yeah. I was thinking about this, and I would love to see what Apple can do in the future. What are you guys' thoughts on? Mark, I'm going to ask you because you are actually in Vision Pro world. So, what are your thoughts? What can Apple take away from Vision Pro to make it cheaper? If they were to make a cheaper Vision Pro.
Wow. Okay. I think materials probably is going to be the one thing that you can remove without removing features.
Mm-hmm.
But hi, my nephews just got here.
Nice.
And they think it looks cool. They're like, I don't see your eyes. I'm like, yes, you can. So they think it's neat. Let's see. I would say aluminum, but that's a lot. I mean, it's a huge block. I don't know if titanium would be more. It'd be heavier, but they would need to use less of it, right? So where's that trade-off for how much, as far as mass, just pure, or I guess volume in this case.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the front glass, the laminate piece of glass, is not. You can kind of still use it without it, but it's intended as a lens, because the actual cameras don't have, I guess, their own specific lens. I don't know how that works, but I feel it's pretty bare.
Jr.
It feels pretty bare bones as it is. I don't know if they wouldn't have released it if they didn't believe in it, right? At least for like it's all of these boxes that it needs to check, plus the experience, which is the most important thing, the end result. But
right.
I mean, yeah, if they can tackle weight, but that's a good question.
So I think if they're going,
I'm okay with the weight. It's great.
Yeah,
it's okay for me, but
it's been a huge thing for people, though, right? So if Apple was to bring out Vision Air instead of like regular Vision or just cheaper Vision, Apple needs, I think, to look at different materials as opposed to going just purely about different metals. Like, look at Formula One. Let's go to some carbon fiber for the frame.
yeah,
like that would be ace. It would look really cool. How durable is it for that kind of use case? I don't 100% know, but
I believe your guest said that there is some. Sam Cole mentioned that there should be or should have been at least some carbon fiber in already somewhere. Maybe using more. That's the thing, though. You can't. Something's going to have to give. Fast, cheap, or durable, right? So fast, cheap, reliable are usually those things. Pick two. For the longest time, the Air meant like a slightly cheaper, more affordable option, and then it became its own premium brand. So that came with, it's even lighter and cheaper, more demand. How much more can we charge for them?
Yeah.
So you can go, I think maybe cheaper material, but not less weight, but not in cost. because titanium's already more expensive. Titanium and carbon fiber, the Vision Air, it wouldn't surprise me if it came out as a lateral or even an upgrade to it. Everything you love about Vision Pro, everything that minus everything you don't, which would be the weight and mass, but at another $100 to $300 more, and just for $256 again.
So I don't know. Like I would have to say, like, Apple doesn't know what air means to them.
But would you go? It's because it's meant different things. I know,
Yeah.
but a Vision Air, people are going to think lighter, but they shouldn't think. We should stop it now. They shouldn't think more cheaper. Because if you would go, even if it wasn't thinner, but just lighter, just more carbon fiber and then some titanium instead of aluminum. Why shouldn't it cost a little bit more? I'm sure a lot of people would still go for it, and then they would be like, okay, now it's good enough for me, or worth it for me with that 2-week period to feel how like. Can I fool myself further? Can I further immerse myself in this suspension of disbelief? Which again, I'm used to it. I'm okay with it now. My record is 50 hours in this thing. I had nothing better to do. But yeah, no, it's great. It's great.
I think
it's almost in a way, it's like, you know how there's no boundary and you're moving around, you kind of think they want to keep you as convinced as you want to be, as immersed with as far as safety, breaking the illusion, the experience, the least possible. So you can be as immersed as you want. And then me also, like, even just turning right now, it's kind of like hey, don't forget you have you're wearing a headset and you have it's just a nice, small, subtle, like think of tether for like astronauts and deep sea divers. They still have their, it's a little bit, you kind of don't really need your full vision, but you need a helmet and, this thing is so you don't go out into outer space or you don't go too far from your submersible, from your battery pack. I like it. I really like it. But that's a tough one. It's not going to be cheaper to keep the same experience and keep it lighter. Price is going to go up.
I can see them doing a version that doesn't have the compute processing where your phone is the brains, or like your MacBook or your iPad's the brains.
Is that harder to manufacture though? And now you have to,
because that's where you bring the cost down and the weight and like having a battery for it.
But who's gonna? You have to. That cost is going to come from somewhere. So
Ross wants to know, would they go as far as plastic iPhone 5C vibes?
As long as it can be vented. I think getting rid of heat.
I don't see why not.
I think this is the minimum amount of compute power that can make all of this work.
I mean, technically, bulletproof material is technically it's nylon, which is plastic stretched to tighten. You can make it light, you can make it strong, durable.
Yeah, it's artificial. But,
but it's the structure of it and it's the tension that creates the strength in it. But so you could make one that's
probably
light.
For Apple to go to nylon, though, they've got so much stuff that they're pushing at in terms of sustainability and that side of things. Although AirPods and stuff are plastic, I don't
with
think
neodymium drivers.
They don't want to push more towards kind of sort of fossil fuel based plastics.
There are synthetic ones now, though.
Everything is.
They're actually they're making out of they're making out of interesting materials. They're doing things like cleaning up the ocean and then filter and then actually using like disgusting water and converting it into like plastics and stuff. But they're manufacturing from like dust, the particles that are given off in the air during like nuclear processes and stuff. They're doing all sorts of things where they can manufacture. Be interesting is like if Apple said, you know what, we have a factory that we need to output this stuff. We haven't been able to get it, 100% clean. But what we did is we took what outputted and we converted it to the plastics and built material.
Here's one thing of that. As expensive as it is, or I mean, just for price. Again, everyone, you're in charge of your wallets or what's worth it to you. At the price that it is now, it's fully 100% standalone. You don't need any other Apple product at all.
Well, except for
now
you can't do FaceTime or anything without setting up without an iPhone. You can't do some of the stuff.
Okay, but you would. That's Apple service from the back end. You would still have your Apple account, or oh my God, that's another thing. They're going to change the name from Apple ID to Apple account. I don't like that. But for you to say like, okay, maybe it's been fielded a few times like, oh, the battery brick. If it's going to have a brick, let's put some of as long as you can keep it still standalone and not say, oh, now it runs off your iPhone or now it runs off the iPhone Ultra or you need an iPad mini. As long as if they give you everything that you would need in the box for Vision Pro or Vision Air or Vision, whatever they call it, then maybe. But
think about
but
this. So the Vision Pro is kind of like the iMac
But I don't think it
right
would be
now,
cheaper.
and they've made
I
a
still don't
Mac
think it'd be
Mini,
cheaper.
and buying a Mac Mini is cheaper than buying an iMac, and you can
Right,
part the
but you would
display
carry.
yourself.
So
And you
what's
can
your goal?
pick.
To
So
get a
if Apple
cheaper.
made a cheaper display, then you most likely you're already going to have an iPhone if you're an Apple person.
But we
So
can't
for
think like
me,
we
if
can't
if
think
I
the way
can
we
if I
think.
can
We're the
brain it
minority.
from, but if you can brain it, if you can have your phone be the brains, I already purchased that. So to have an additional cost
You
for an
did.
additional thing, that'd be like I have a 512 gig iPhone. So then my iPad has to be 512, my Mac has to be, because I need to be able to store everything that's on that across each of them. We already do that.
Just
But
your
if you can
cloud
have
account. No, just your
Yeah.
you
cloud
can
account is
have
sufficient.
no,
Everything's on the
because
cloud with this.
if the cloud's down, I'm screwed though. Like I got to be
You
able to
download
store
to
it
your
and edit
device.
it somewhere. I'm
Right, but
still
you
storing
have
it though. Like I
you
can't edit
have
in LumaFusion off from the cloud. It's still stored locally.
but you
right?
have the same 256 or half a terabyte worth of stuff multiple times over, yes?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So you only
if you
need
didn't
the
have to do
one
that,
the
then
one
you only would
device.
need the one device. So like,
But
for
let's slow down. So
example,
the first thing was how can Apple get this cheaper? Or separate, how can they get it lighter? So for someone, if they were like, oh, now you need this, but you also would need this and that, that's for the lighter version. Or here's how you can do it cheaper, but it's cheaper. You're just moving that cost from one device to another.
they already do that
through
though.
those two separate ones. One, okay,
already
now
do
it's
that.
on a second device. How much? I mean, what's the cheapest Pro iPhone? Which I imagine you can't go lower than Pro if you want to offboard some of the stuff. That's $1,000 there.
Right.
So $1,000 there plus what? $1,000, maybe $1,200 off of Vision Pro.
Let's
you're
just
adding-
think this through though. Like the minimum chip is an M2, an A17
And
Pro,
R1.
for example. Yeah, it's not going to be able
Yeah.
to run two 4K displays at 90 hertz in
Mhm.
real time with 12 milliseconds of delay. If you
Right.
go higher on the delay, which is what the R1 is basically doing,
Yeah.
then you're going to get people feeling motion sick.
Yep.
That's the big thing that nobody has reported by using this.
None of that.
So that's a non-starter, to be honest, running
Yep.
it from your phone, at least at this point. You're having to process all of the camera data. If you're going to do that wirelessly to your iPhone, then you're going to add latency there from the sensors that are within the display.
And connectivity.
I think the only things that and the M2 and the R1 are not a significant amount of the pricing of the of the Vision Pro. I think the M2 is somewhere around $50-$60. The displays between them are around $1,000. So the display pricing coming down is where savings
Which will happen.
come. It will happen, but at the moment, that's actually the constraint on making them. It's not even a case of if they brought the price down, they'd sell more.
Yeah, that's what it costs
Sony, who
to
make
make
the displays, cannot make more of these displays.
Yeah, of course.
Because they're so, I mean, it's 50 pixels to one iPhone size pixel.
That's crazy.
In terms of the density of these displays, because they're so small and so high high density. That's why it's expensive, and that's why it's exclusive at the minute. I do think that Apple will probably find a cheaper way of doing the displays. They might have slightly less brightness. Yeah, we're talking something like, is it 5,000 nits or something? But
it doesn't hit my eyes.
On like brightness per space, per area.
It needs to be that bright.
Making that area huge.
Way less than that hits your actual eye because of how pancake lenses work. Yeah.
Yeah. It's spreading that out across an effectively much bigger area.
And it's pretty freaking bright as it is.
Yeah. So that's all it's waiting for, is for these displays to come down in price or an equivalent way of making a display that is good enough quality. And I don't think Apple's going to skimp out on the displays on any of them. There's nothing that's non-retina now in their range. So
here's one.
I'm thinking on the side of like how Apple already does things. So the MacBook Pros have like, you get the high refresh rate, the brightest.
We can't keep looking backwards though, Michael.
Resolution displays, right? But this is, if you're talking about how they're going to go cheaper, they already do this. MacBook Pros already do this. The iPad Pro already does this. You get a dimmer display. You get a different technology and display, and you get a lower resolution, and they can already do it, and they could keep it in the line, and it's for a different utility, because you don't have somebody who needs the higher refresh rate because they're not gaming, or the brighter display because they're not doing color or editing. It's a different line of thing. So
It's for
the
realism.
Vision Pro right now, though, is for the all-in-one, so they can make a different version for a different purpose. They already do it in all their
It's-
line. What you're asking for is same utility, cheaper. That's not what they're going to do. They never have done that.
No, just for
Ever.
pass-through. Just for pass-through, so there's no lag, no delay. That's the refresh rate and the latency that needs to. It's fixed. We can't do worse than that. That's where everything falls apart, regardless of what you're doing. Building an app or searching Twitter. It doesn't. There's no. Those are fixed.
Even
But
if
it
you're looking
also
for
is
cheap
relative to-
headsets.
Yeah,
It's relative
and
to the square. It's relative to the dimensions that they're using too. So if you bring that screen smaller, you can adjust the refresh rate a bit and bring things closer because that delay to the human eye will be affected by it. They already do it.
People are already complaining that it's too kind of goggle-like, though, in terms of field of
Yeah.
view. So if you make that smaller, that's going to be smaller than pretty much anything else that's out in the market. Like the one that I've got, which is normally hanging up here, but it's not. I wanted to grab a prop because I really like doing that. We've shown this in the show so far. But I have the Pico 4, which is ByteDance's headset. And it's kind of a price point equivalent to a Quest. It's 90 hertz. It's pancake lenses. It's 2K per eye. It's not bad. It's okay. But, you know, it's like $400, $500. That thing's 90 hertz, and anything less than that would genuinely... And I'm not a snob when it comes to refresh rates. I'm one of those people that
Yeah.
keeps going, 60 hertz is fine. I
thought I could
don't
tell
see the
too. I
difference.
can't really
I
tell.
can't see the difference. But
No.
when you're in a headset and your motion, like looking at the real world, when you're looking through it, or your
That's where
motion within an environment, if it's not quick, you will feel sick and you will throw
Everything falls apart. Doesn't
So
matter how
if
much
they
you pay.
were pitching, if they were pitching it though as like as a replacement for your displays, like they already do that, right? That's a lot of the
Mhm.
utility.
Mhm.
So you don't have to rely on the motion as much. Then I think the refresh rate would be different because you're
No,
not
you
moving
still do,
around with it
because
as much.
So how-
what
right.
your ears do in terms of balance and acceleration when you're moving your head around has to match with your eyes almost perfectly. Otherwise, even when you're moving around within displays that are within a space that you're looking at, even if you're not doing pass through, you're going to feel sick because there's going to
Yeah.
be a delay. Everything's going to
Mm-hmm.
move and try and catch up with you. You can't skimp
Yeah, you're
on
still
it.
looking at if you were at your desk with 2 or 3 displays, you're still doing this swivel thing.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
one thing for, if you guys remember, where there was this quote for indistinguishable from reality. What I've found that to be true is, well, I just expanded everything. Is
He
when-
just fell into a black hole.
yes, when that as far as when you have something in your environment and that basically everything that is fake, everything that is digital, virtual, that looks real. That looks like that is in my space.
Yeah.
Or right now, the chat that I have with you guys, or I have StreamYard open in front of me. That looks, however big it is, it looks like it's that screen, whether it's a projection screen or a laser, or for some reason I have a 20-foot television that is weightless. That
Mhm.
part of it is, dude, it looks just as good as if you had a ProMotion Pro Display XDR Mamba Jamba, whatever the hell. That is what they wanted. So for that's where I was like, okay. And even though your brain only needs enough so where it fills in the blank, as far as like, I can see my counter, a banana, my coffee, my hands. I can see all this stuff. It's good. It's good and more than good enough. It's just enough so that you don't have to think about it. Kind of like how when someone misspells a word, all the letters are there, but the middle of the word is jumbled up, and you can still what the word is, right? Like that. Your brain fills in the blanks. And then we also have AI later on. Hopefully, again, Dub's going to be crazy. But as far as when they were like, I can still tell I'm looking through cameras. I'm like, that's not the point. The point was this with your virtual screen or an app or anything, or even like like an iPhone render, like the AR on the website, Apple's AR see in your space, that looks as good as my iPhone, which is on the desk next to me. That part is indistinguishable from reality. They wanted to make the real, the fake as good as the real. That's where that quote it hit for me. Sorry if that
If
took
they
a while.
removed the pass through, I guess that would be one thing that could cut down on some of the costs.
But that's not what
Yeah,
Apple
well-
wants. I know, like,
No.
I'm not against that, but I get you.
No,
you would.
I can see that though. I can see that.
Because I could.
I mean,
think
this is
like,
already the productivity work device. So
Because-
so you're thinking more
Or-
like to compete with
because-
Quest or as a game
or create a version of it that
that you don't walk
like
around
it's
the
there
whole
for
town.
safety, but it's not necessarily having to be as real. It's
And
for
does
the
this
times when
sound-
somebody walks up to you. It's so because if you think about it, like right now, some of like what people are doing with it. What if because there's a hole in the space as far as like what people are doing with this already. Like the Quest version has its thing, and then Apple has its version, but there isn't really a good like
What hole?
work-based version where a lot of people are using it for that, but then they're doing some other things. But that there's a gap in the middle that's like
This one's multi-purpose.
more than what a Quest can do, but less than what an Apple Vision Pro can do.
I think with Vision Pro, it covers all those bases. I mean, as far as the hardware, I have no issues. The hardware, we have not hit the limit of what this headset today's hardware can do yet.
There's got to be some stuff with the physics though, because I know like when you shift the distance to light, you can affect how it appears visually. So they wouldn't necessarily have to make the screen smaller, but they could bring them closer, and then they would appear to be the same size. Well,
Or
that
add
also
another
affects
lens?
the light that also affects the distance of the light traveling to the eye, which means they don't have to make it necessarily
Okay,
as
but that's for
bright.
the
It's
next
like if
iteration.
you sit closer to a
Yeah.
display, like I'm sitting close to this display in front of me, it's smaller, it's dimmer, but it appears brighter than when I have my TV in the other room that's 4 times the size.
Yes, but eyes have a minimal focal distance. I know you're kind of adjusting
Yeah.
that with lenses. You've got to leave enough space to put in corrective lenses for anyone that's a glasses wearer normally.
Yeah.
But also, if you make the displays smaller and bring them closer to your eyes, you've also then got to increase your pixel density even
Yeah.
further than 500 or no, sorry, 50 pixels in the space of a single iPhone pixel, which it is now, which is just bonkers to think about in the first place. So
Yeah.
if you're going to make them even closer, you're going to be getting up to 75 to 100 pixels, and then obviously I think what Apple needs to do is basically, I would say, bring the processing stuff to the sides of your head rather than in front of you, because the closer you can get to your center of gravity, the lighter it's going to feel, regardless of whether it's like you've got a turning moment, haven't you? The further away it is, the more it's moving. You've got inertia. So
leverage, I think you would say.
Leverage.
Oh, there we go.
But you were so close. You were doing a
love
really accurate English. I was
leverage.
impressed.
I would love though one that's
Well, we invented it. So.
it's simply like a display that has the utilities of the display. So like if you want to use it with your Mac as like your displays, and that's what you do with it all the time, but you want like the quality of what Apple does and like the ability to switch between things easily and like it communicating, because the thing is Apple has the advantage of creating the hardware, so they can make it communicate to the Mac faster than any other version that you can connect up, because you can connect other versions up. I mean, there's $400 pair of glasses you can put on, you connect over USB-C and you get, but it's reliant on their software for it, and it's reliant on treating it like a normal display. So
but Apple's not going to do that because that's not the Apple way.
They already do that though, in a way. If you think about
Android
like
does that.
The Studio display versus
like Sidecar,
the Pro XD Display XDR, and then they sell like LG's displays, which are similar.
So how would you explain all of that to a regular mall goer that just walks by the Apple store and goes inside?
The same way that you would tell them
an Android user
look at an approach. No, somebody that buys an iMac versus somebody that buys a Mac Mini versus somebody that buys a MacBook. There's different use for the different. And if you think about it right now, what I was saying is like the iMac is kind of comparative to the Vision Pro. It's an all-in-one, has all the processing, the display, the brains, and everything.
The desktop.
In there. But if you are somebody who is like, I already have, or I want a Mac, but I want to be able to take it with me, so they buy like a Mac Mini because they don't really need a MacBook, but they're going to like connect it at the hotel display screen, and they're going to connect it at a screen at home, or like one part breaks down, they want to be able to replace things, because there's people that think about that too, or use their own peripherals. So you could sell a Vision like non-Pro as something like this is an accessory to what you have.
The Vision Pro still does that though. Wait, does it only do that? Does it only do it with Silicon MacBooks, or can you also use the
You
desktop.
can use it with Intel, and you can use it with desktops. What I would say is, I think what you're talking about is like the laptop version of it, the lighter version that you can take with you. I think we're not going to see that until we get to a pair of glasses that's got that. So rather than having passed through via displays and via cameras, you're going to have a clear OLED essentially, and maybe it's just overlaying straight onto the glasses.
Right.
That's the only way that I can imagine they'd do that.
So this one would be desktop. There's something else coming for the laptop, and then the essentially iPhone glasses version, where like bare bones.
That would be more of an accessory, I think, where the processing is uploaded.
But that's the third away from this, completely separate.
It's a big chunk of away, but it's going to be what we use Vision OS for in the future, I think.
Yeah, that's there. Yeah, that's already there.
Yeah.
But so my question was for like, I got rid of my Silicon MacBook Pro, to get these, but I don't think even some peripherals don't work with my 2011, 2012 Intel MacBook. So I wonder if they limited only for Apple Silicon, like to pair it with your like desktop extension. I don't know if anyone's tried it with a Mac Mini or with
Oh, you can definitely do it with a desktop.
I haven't seen it. Who's done that?
I've seen people do it with
if you know.
I can't remember.
So it doesn't. It's not just a MacBook extender.
No. You can definitely do it with the desktops. You do still need to have a display attached to the Mac. It's not something where you can just have a Mac Mini sat on your desk and then throw up your display. And you can do it with.
You can have a dummy adapter.
So then that's not cheaper if you have to get all those things from scratch. Someone brand new stepping in to use the quote cheaper, Vision, whatever they call it. You need all these
It can
pieces
be attached to your TV
individually. But you see how the basket of Apple stuff, they would need to buy it in addition to extra stuff. That's more expensive.
Yeah, I don't think we will get a stripped down version of this that is designed to be cheaper. This
not
is
a stripped down Pro version. Maybe a separate Vision something.
But that'll be years away. That's literally when we're talking about glasses instead.
Again, this thing does practically all of that. It does it all. Some people complain about the way I got used to it. Whatever. It's my first headset. I got used to it. And I'm not like rich or anything. And like I said, I took a loss on some. We know how that goes. I traded up my stuff. I'm fully standalone in this, and it does everything that I needed to do. And I know that we have yet to hit what this hardware can do through software only, which again, Dub is going to create. It's already improved. There's been 5 updates already in the barely 5 weeks this thing has existed.
Mm-hmm.
That's
the price
incredible.
Will come down. The weight will come down, but it'll be a case of like
at a premium. I think.
I don't even know if it will. I think the price is going to come down and the weight will come down on the same version. But I think it's going to be more of a case of.
That sounds like it would take longer though. Further out,
maybe, but I think it's more going to be a case of like getting better at the manufacturing. At the minute,
they did it in
the issue with the displays is that they can't make that many, probably because a lot of them fail. So once the yields come up, the price comes down because they're not wasting as much.
Do you know if they wanted to vertically integrate displays? Is that something they've already talked about, or just basically buy them all up with a contract so no one else gets any?
I think they're going to buy out Japan Display, if anything, because they're one of the less known, but they use them like in their watches and some of the iPads and stuff.
We need Ross Displayman in here. He knows.
But what's interesting to me though is like I predict they're already conditioning people for using an iPhone with like a corded to a set of glasses, because when you saw
like
the original patent. When you saw the original patent, it was an iPod with a pair of glasses. Now you have the battery that can go in the back of your pocket that has a cable. So if you can get people used to like the first couple generations of the Vision Pro having a cable that's running, then when people go, well, now my iPhone's the brains of some smaller version of it, and I just want it for entertainment and some other things, and I can now connect it into my Mac. Or think about this: if they were to allow a version of like AirPlay kind of, so you're already, you can AirPlay from your iPhone to your MacBook, allow your MacBook to kind of reverse that. So when you have your iPhone connected up, your MacBook can wirelessly cast to it, or other people can temporarily. They're already doing that with audio, with like the music SharePlay stuff in your car. They're already giving signals of things that they're working on, and they've been doing this for years. And if you think about oh, it's going to take a while, they've done this in the past twice, where it only took them 2 years in one iteration to go from a device that was more expensive to cheaper and lighter.
Yep.
And they did it at about the same price range too. You're talking about like $2,500 to $3,500 price range, and then the next version was cheaper. The original MacBook Air was $1,799.
Yep.
2 years later, it was $999. I researched some of this the other
Oh
day.
yeah, 100%.
I don't know,
Like,
like it was some random thing that came up, and I'm like, I wonder what they've done in the past, like what specific to have the numbers. And then even like the original Mac in 1984 was about $2,500, and then a couple of years later and they've done it. And the original iPad was cheaper, but if you compare it, the original iPad doesn't compare to like an iPad Pro.
Yeah, the original iPad came out at $499. And now we have an iPad at $350-ish.
$329.
I know it went to $329. I feel like it came up again, but but you know, that's really good. The iPad Mini actually came out at $399 when it originally launched, cheaper than the regular iPad. But yeah,
iPad Air $549 with Apple Silicon, which is again where they took
me.
we're gonna give you an M1, but then we're gonna give you a slightly worse display and a smaller device, but you still get that power in there and a little bit less memory and some stuff. So they've done it in the past with every lineup where they give you like a version later that's cheaper, lighter, but has most of the utilities. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, you can only bring the refresh rate down, and you can only bring it so close, but that's with our optics we have now, and there's some new optics stuff coming out that I've been reading about, like with these spherical lenses for contacts and for glasses and stuff. So I think maybe they'll be able to implement that, so you don't necessarily have to have like separate lens for like bouncing the light and stuff. They could use an all-in-one, and it would allow them to move things a little bit closer. It would allow them to potentially maybe make like work with Zeiss for that. And so
how far along down do you think that is? Oh, go ahead, Taylor. My bad.
Sorry, man. I thought about this, and I was contemplating making a video about it. What are you guys' thoughts? We had the S version of iPhone for I don't know how many years. What are your thoughts on that coming back? I mean, now they switched it to Pro, and now it's like, you know, the price gets higher. But what are you guys' thoughts on them releasing an S version that's cheaper than the rest?
You mean a C version then?
The
I was gonna
SE
say
took the place of kind of
Vision
they did that
C?
with the SE,
Vision
and
S.
some of the SE is kind of
I know the name.
what the iPad Air was originally. You took like two
that's
generations old bodies, and then
it would be
took
Apple
relatively
Vision
newer brains, and you threw them together. That's what the iPad Air was for a while, and then they kind of made it its own thing.
It would be
where it's
Apple
like
Vision impaired or Apple Vision not as good. No, just kidding.
but I think
Professional vision.
Dave can probably tell me on this, but like
Apple Vision amateur, intermediate.
I think the reason that the newer iPad Airs that they kind of shifted away from where it was like, oh, we actually have the old, like an old body look with new internals, is because the yield. They started having less and less like waste on some of the stuff. So then they're like, we're just going to make a new body because we still have old brains to it, but we don't have enough of the old bodies, and they're not going to reproduce more of those. So then we're just going to make a new look, and then we can and we can still use the display and some of that stuff.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
I can give you the rundown on it. So iPad went original iPad 2 went way thinner and added all the cameras. iPad 3 was the first with Retina display, but it still had the full thick bezels all the way around the outside. iPad 4 was still Retina display. They put a better chip in it and gave it Lightning for the first time. The iPad Air 1 and 2 was basically just the next generations of the iPad, but it had the thinner side bezels and it was just a bit lighter. That's why they went to the Air branding. And then they just started splitting off into the Pros and the regular iPads, and iPad Air went away for a while completely, and was replaced with the regular iPad versus the Pro. That was all you had. But then this is when it got so confusing with what does Air mean, because originally the MacBook Air, as you said, started at $1,799 as a premium because you had a MacBook and a MacBook Pro. and then the Air
Yeah.
came in as a premium, lightweight, easy to carry around Ultrabook, and then
Yeah.
replaced the MacBook
Yep.
when they got rid of the regular MacBook, and then the MacBook came back, and that was a premium in 2015, and everyone lost their minds because nobody knew what Air meant, nobody knew what Pro meant anymore, and then the iPad Basic without a modifier was the cheapest, and then the Mini was more expensive than the regular, and then the Air came back in the middle, and it was just an absolute mess. I have done a whole video on how Apple does not have a clue what their own naming means, and I really wanted Apple to bring out like a Mac Mini SE. So like once the original Mac Mini with Apple Silicon came out, it came out at $699.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And then it came back down to $599 on the next one. And I was like, well, when the M2 comes out, leave the M1 in there at $499, which was the original Mac Mini's price when it first came out with a G4 inside. And everyone was like, it's an amazing price. And it's even better now because $499 in what, 2001, 2002, maybe for a G4, something like that.
US dollar inflation calendar. Let's get that guy.
I'm going to say it's about $800 now.
2001, $500?
Yeah, I would guess it's about $850.
Mark, you disappeared.
Yeah,
What would
I
be
opened the new
interesting
tab.
is, if
Let's
you
see
think
what we
about it, the original Mac Mini and the Apple TV were basically the same chassis, right? They had the same look. What if they did that again?
$870.
Oh,
just
I
make
said
a-
$850. That's not bad going.
870, 74, $500 in 2001. So what does that get? What does that get you today? What does $870 get you today?
Does that get you a? That doesn't get you a Pro, does it? It doesn't get you an M2
You can
Pro.
get an you can
That's
get
like
an M you can get
1100.
an M2 with 16
Get you a
gigs of
new
RAM and
phone.
like probably and at least 5.
Isn't that crazy?
It was $777 on Amazon when I looked for an M2 with the 16256. So you could probably do it. You could do a 16512.
I'm gonna say as well off the top of my head that original Mac Mini probably came with 256 megabytes of RAM.
Crazy. And think of it the same nominal price that Vision Pro came out with, it came out in the mid 80s, was the same nominal price for a desktop computer from Macintosh. Just pure 3,500 was the same exact price way back then, which is like double that now, $7,000, $8,000 in today's money.
Yeah,
at least
starting plus tax.
Yeah, I think like MacBook SE would have been a really good thing to come out. I still kind of want them
or just
to bring
MacBook.
Out, yeah, I would like them to bring back
that would be
MacBook,
great.
A base MacBook.
Yeah,
and I think now the A16, I think it was equivalent in terms of performance with the M1
with 128 gig hard drive to piss everyone off.
Which is fine because
I know
people work in the cloud and work in a browser most of the time. It doesn't actually.
We need to
matter.
stop. We're digital hoarders. This needs to
What was
stop.
that I was watching the other day and they were comparing? The M3 chip is the A17 Pro, like as far as the neural engine.
Oh yeah, in terms of the cores, they're the same.
And the cores and
more
stuff.
often.
And then the M2 was the A16, and then the M1 is the A14 chip from the iPhone 12 series, I believe.
Yeah, so they did actually skip a generation.
They skipped a generation in there, and that's why the 1 to the 2 was such a jump, and also why you got the video engine that came into the 2 but was in the 1 Pro. So why you could get an M2 that could perform similarly editing wise as an M1 Pro because you still got the video engine in there,
and the double encoder, right?
Wasn't there a jump?
Isn't there 2 encoders?
And then you get the
encoder and the decoder and all
the Max and Ultra chips. You get additional.
Meanwhile, I'm like, ooh, the color. What? For me, that's what I was playing. Oh, sweet. Maybe the gigabytes for RAM. That's where that right there, because I'm like, okay, that means I can do a bunch of stuff. Not for the more behind the scenes. That's you guys.
I remember my dad talking about his first computer was like 2 kilobytes for RAM, and it was like 32 kilobyte drive was your storage. I'm thinking like, and it took up like the size of like half a room, and that was like his computer at Michigan State University. And then when he got his first personal computer, they had like hundreds of times of in store, but still it was like megabytes, you know?
Even, do you guys remember the Apple Watch Series 0? I think that had more compute power than what we still have orbiting and mapping outer space right now. And I think
yeah,
the one
Voyagers
Apollo
and stuff.
and Apollo that went to the moon, right? Even it's like they
Mhm.
nowhere near the compute power on your wrist now.
You know the Apollo guidance computers,
Yeah,
the storage for that was
I know them well.
woven into a rope. Like that's how you did storage at the time, and you had like 15
That's why it was called
verbs
storage. Like,
and
take that
stuff.
to the
Yeah,
storage. Go store that over there in the storing area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
like core rope memory was a thing that they
Well,
had to just build
that-
from scratch.
That's why they're talking. I mean, now they're doing similar where they're storing data on human strings of DNA and then decoding it off from
Oh,
it, reading it
yeah.
off from it, which is pretty sick. Like, can you imagine? Like, you could
Yes,
have
I
an
can.
iPhone and your storage is literally like in your DNA.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
But
pretty
then
sure they
here's
did
the
this
problem:
on-
if you had like a condition or like a stroke or something that messed up your DNA, you literally could
Fix it.
destroy your storage,
Mm.
Yeah.
and they
Yeah,
might not
didn't
know what.
Voyager do
It's
this on
repairable,
Star
though.
Trek? They had like neural storage on Star Trek Voyager, I think. Those guys are ahead of their time, like by about 4 centuries.
We're
according to the lore.
catching up now.
Definitely. Well, guys, I want to end the live stream. I want to try to keep this short, so when I go to edit, it's not too bad. Even though
7 years later.
Yeah.
yeah. Michael, I pay attention to WhatsApp because I'm gonna be texting like crazy. Actually, I do gotta text you guys and ask you guys questions
Yep.
about the edit. So
Why is
I will
he
be
on Do Not
texting-
Disturb all of a sudden?
Yeah.
No.
Because I'm like that Bruce Almighty meme.
Speaking, that does remind me one last thing. Speaking of things they kind of introduced that never really came through, the in-app, the API where like app developers could use Do Not Disturb modes within the app. So like WhatsApp, if you put your phone on Do Not Disturb, WhatsApp would change and let everybody else know. That never really none of the apps never really started doing that. Similar to like
Focus
some of
modes?
the email stuff, like
Oh, the auto
focus modes where you can
auto
where
response.
you
Yeah.
can go and specify it yourself.
Yeah.
But it was also supposed to be like they could just do the API, so you put your phone on Do Not Disturb, and now all of the apps, your Facebook Messenger, your WhatsApp, all of them would know like, hey, he's, and none of them took advantage of it. So
What's
you could do
Facebook?
it individually, but
Just kidding.
Did anyone actually see those applets as well in the wild? You know, it was like a QR code that you scanned, and then you get like
our
the
gas stations
menu
use
of a-
those.
Do they? They
Yeah.
use them in the States. Like I haven't
The
seen
little
it over here anyway.
app where it
Yeah.
pops up, and then you don't have to actually download the app, and you can pay and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
they
can kind of
they
use it
use
in a
those at the
preview.
gas stations.
QR to
and-
pay?
Oh, okay.
What? That's weird.
That's
It's
pretty
not
cool.
really a QR code. It's like the dots. It kind of looks
Yeah,
like
it's
it reminds
similar.
me
It's
more
like a
of the
round
look
one,
of like
isn't
when you set up your Apple Watch and it scans and it has all the
Oh,
dots
okay.
on it.
Okay.
Or
Okay.
some of the new stuff they're doing now.
Because they did iBeacons at one point, which was like little Bluetooth beacons that you could put in various areas. It may have been
That's how the
the
stores
ultra
knew where
wideband or
you
something
were.
like that.
That's how the stores knew where you were too when you
Yeah.
came in and like for paying with your phone at an Apple store, and sports venues and stuff were doing that.
Mm.
And they could tell you, and you could be like, oh, so many people came in with an iPhone, and they could also pop in ads on your device. That was a little
Yeah, there was
counter
like
what Apple
Bluetooth
wanted them
stuff
to
with
do, but
that
that's what
as
they
well.
were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys all
Awesome.
for joining us tonight. I want to thank Mr. Michael Pepper. The
Woo!
one I did not shout out. I am very sorry.
He's a very
but
special guest.
He deserved it.
Mark Sequence, straight from the Vision Pro.
Boom.
And our very special guest, iCave Dave. Thank you guys for coming on, and I hope you guys come back soon. It would be really cool to have you guys on again.
Aw.
You guys are awesome. So thank you so much.
Thank you for
like I
having
said,
us.
Thank you, Taylor.
yeah, absolutely. Like I said earlier, I am going to cut this down, and then re-upload it. So you're not seeing this twice. I'm just cutting and making this a little shorter for the replay crew. I do want to shout out the replay crew. Thank you guys for joining this week's
Whoop, whoop.
podcast. And with that being said, guys, hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Yay.
Bye, everyone.